It's the ultimate snack, crunchy, fluffy, and adored the world over. Join us as we explore the incredible journey of popcorn.
Here's your popcorn. Enjoy! Yay!
That is so funny.
Here's how these tiny, unassuming kernels go through an entire journey of farming and preparation.
Just to land in your lap right when the opening scenes begin.
Corn is grown in more than 27 states across the country.
Yet nearly all of it comes from a group of about 10 states in the Midwest, a region known as the Corn Belt. Within those 10 states, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa together account for 50% of the belt's entire output.
The overwhelming majority of that crop, about 99%, is made up of what's called dent corn, named for its small indentation on each kernel. And despite it being the most abundant and productive crop in the United States, dent corn isn't edible for humans. That's why it's typically dry milled and processed into livestock feed, breakfast cereals, or sweeteners like high fructose corn syrup.
That leaves less than a 1% split between sweet corn, the kind you'd find on the cob,
and flint corn, which gives rise to a specific variety called Zea mays everta, the only corn on Earth that can pop.
What sets Zea mays everta apart is its rock-hard outer shell called the pericarp that's watertight and seals the kernel completely.
Beneath that hard pericarp is a starchy layer called the endosperm that's filled with tiny pockets of moisture.
When the kernel is heated to about 450 degrees Fahrenheit, that moisture becomes steam, and the pericarp shell resists as long as physically possible, until it finally bursts, flipping the starchy endosperm inside out, creating an airy flake we know as popcorn.
This pressure inside each kernel can reach up to 135 pounds per square inch.
And the entire pop happens in under 100 milliseconds, expanding the kernel to nearly 50 times its original size.
These kernels themselves come in two main types that look almost identical before they're popped, called butterfly and mushroom.
Storing this much grain in one place can be very dangerous and comes with a serious responsibility. Moisture control. Butterfly opens into wild and irregular shapes with lots of little wings, perfect for catching butter, salt, and powdered seasonings.
Which is why you'll see it in theaters, microwave bags, and air poppers. Mushroom, on the other hand, which pops
into dense, ball-shaped pieces that can hold heavy coatings like cheddar cheese, warm caramel, or chocolate drizzle.
After the seeds are planted from late April through mid-May, it takes about 7 days
for the kernels to germinate. With the first green shoots pushing up through the soil just 3 days later.
Full maturity comes somewhere between 100 and 120 days, by which point a healthy stalk can stand close to 9 feet tall.
There's also an easy way to tell a popcorn stalk apart from dent corn in the field. Dent corn tassels stand straight up,
while popcorn tassels curve and droop downward like a willow branch. Unlike sweet corn, which is harvested young, while the kernels are still soft and full of moisture.
Popcorn works the other way. It stays out in the field until the plant completely dies off, the kernels have fully hardened,
each kernel to roughly 20%, dry enough for safe, long-term storage, and a workable starting point for the farmers to dry them down even further, to a much narrower sweet spot. That gives the kernels a consistently and reliable pop. We'll walk through how that drying process works in just a moment. Harvest typically runs late September through October, when these large combines move through the fields, stripping ears from the stalks.
The shelling happens entirely inside the machine. With clean kernels fed out into a collection vehicle traveling alongside.
When it's full, those kernels are hauled off to the storage site. Arriving at the storage site, 150 million kernels are discharged from each trailer and fed into these gigantic grain bins. that can each hold up to 2 million pounds. 12 million bags filled every day, translating that massive scale directly into the quality you can trust in your own home.
If the kernels are too damp, they can grow mold or bacteria and begin to spoil. And if left unchecked,
where a single spark is all it takes to cause an explosion.
While modern combines can monitor the crop's moisture level in real time right in the field, and farmers do their best to harvest the crop below a safe threshold, sometimes the weather doesn't always cooperate. So thankfully, these high-tech grain bins are built to handle that exact situation.
After the bin is filled, a heater fan on the ground pushes hot air up through its raised, perforated floor and throughout the heap of kernels, pulling moisture out as it climbs. Then sweep augers at the bottom continuously move the wet grain towards the center, where a vertical screw auger carries it up and through a moisture tester.
Then sprinkles it back on top, keeping the entire heap in constant rotation. Moisture monitoring cables run throughout the pile too, with sensors every 3 feet,
which feed live moisture data back to the system that automatically switches the heater fans on or off, adapting to whatever weather is happening outside. All this apparatus works towards one target,
bringing that harvest level moisture from 20% down to between 14.5 and 13.5%. The perfect range that makes a full and fluffy pop every time. When the kernels are at that 13.5% and the factory is ready for a fresh supply,
this floor-mounted auger empties the silo, sending the kernels inside the plant. But before the kernels are brought into full production, a sample is pulled and taken to the testing lab. The first step is measuring the moisture,
followed by a yield check to see how much each kernel expands. To make the cut, the corn needs to expand to at least 45 times its size once it's popped.
to measure that, the popcorn gets poured into this oversized graduated cylinder. And this batch lands right on target and is cleared to move forward.
With the kernels tested and at their ideal moisture, their full production run now gets underway. Their journey begins at this sifting machine, and it does two jobs at once. Its vibrating deck shakes the kernels across, perforated screens, letting the smaller pieces fall through, while overhead vacuums lift away husks, cob fragments,
while the properly sized kernels continue down the line. Then, the kernels ride over this gravity separator.
The machine vibrates the entire batch across a slightly tilted bed, while air is blown upward through it. This tilt and airflow does something clever. The lighter kernels that have lost too much moisture and won't pop well drift off to the side, while the heavier kernels carrying just the right amount of moisture
stay in the center. These are the keepers, because they'll make a full and fluffy pop.
The last inspection stage is the color sorter. This machine looks at every single kernel as nearly 1 million rush by each minute.
Under UV-guided cameras, anything chipped, off-color, or too light is spotted. Then a quick airburst kicks it out of the stream in mid-air.
Kernels that have cleared all 3 stages move on to packaging. Some will go out in bulk for movie theaters. Which means there's one major ingredient still missing: the butter. And that's exactly where we're going next. That extra buttery blast all starts with palm oil flowing into this heated mixing kettle, the base that will carry all the seasoning. It's a favorite for microwave popcorn because it stays semi-solid at room temperature,
yet melts easily under heat, giving that rich coating on every pop. Ultra-fine-grained salt goes into the batch next.
It's sifted in so it disperses smoothly without clumping. And it's milled to a fine powder so it doesn't just sit on the surface.
It reaches into every crack and crevice of the kernel, so the seasoning is consistent from the first handful to the last.
For that buttery hit, they blend in compounds like diacetyl, acetoin, and butyric acid, the same flavor molecules that naturally occur in real butter, just in a more concentrated form. Together, they recreate that unmistakable movie theater taste and warm buttery aroma that starts filling the room.
Annatto extract follows. A plant-based colorant derived from the achiote tree.
Administered, and this is what gives the kernels their vibrant golden yellow glow. It's purely visual, but it's a big part of what.
Finally, a touch of rosemary extract or sometimes TBHQ are added in small amounts. These help keep the oils from going rancid.
So the buttery flavor stays fresh while on the shelf. With the butter blend ready, insulated tubes carry the warm slurry directly to this filling machine, while pneumatic tubes bring the sorted kernels in from the other side.
Portions of about 500 kernels go in first, followed immediately by a 45-gram injection of the butter slurry,
achieving a throughput over 150 bags per minute. Downstream, each bag is heat-clamped shut,
date-coated, folded to size, then overwrapped with a clear plastic that locks in freshness until it's movie night. Its inside is coated with a fluorinated grease-resistant liner that keeps the buttery oil from soaking through,
helping it cling to the kernels instead of bleeding into the bag. Tucked into the middle of the bag is a hidden patch called the susceptor.
It's a microscopically thin layer of aluminum bonded in plastic, thin enough to absorb microwave energy without sparking.
It functions like a miniature frying pan, concentrating heat directly onto the kernels and driving consistent and even popping, creating just enough space for every last kernel to sprout out light and fluffy. The finished bags then get grouped into retail boxes,
stacked onto pallets, and shipped across the country. By the time they reach your kitchen, the hard part is already done.
Just hit the popcorn setting and listen for that first pop.
Back in the day, making homemade popcorn meant hauling out a pot, oil, and kernels, and cleaning up the mess afterward.
It was the only option, so people made it work. The 1950s brought Easy Pop and Jiffy Pop, which wrapped the whole process in a foil pan. But it was easy to burn, and you still had to babysit it over the stove. Then came the early 80s, and everything changed.
The microwave oven was landing in kitchens across the country. At the same time, the VCR was making home movie nights a regular weekend ritual. Blockbuster was expanding, rental culture was taking off, and the demand for an easy snack was rising right along with it. By the end of the decade, close to 75% of American homes had both a microwave and a VCR, and microwave popcorn became the perfect snack to match the era.
Today, with streaming libraries at your fingertips, that warm, buttery bowl of popcorn is still just a bag.
This batch is perfect, so fluffy. I know, way better than the movies.
Thanks for tuning in to Made Vision, and we'll see you next time.